let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
Okay, so once again, this is the second week in a row. I'll be on the road, so I won't be in the garage recording. This time we're in beautiful Barrie, Ontario. I've got a massive lake here. It's an awesome boardwalk that goes all the way around it. There's sailboats in it. You just have to come and see it for yourself. But I do have somebody with me today that has been clamoring a little bit to get on the podcast, and his name's been mentioned in I think 2 episodes already. We have Justin Barkell. What's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a bit. It's been a minute.
No, I know it's been a while. But to your point about the Barrie, one thing I always say about Barrie, they have a big spear catcher, like statue downtown, and that's one thing I will always say. That's what always brings people back. Everyone always loves Barrie. I told myself I'm not coming back to Barrie, but the spear catcher always gets you. But yeah, I'm actually pumped that you actually are doing the podcast. I'll start with that because I've been thinking about it, because I've heard you talk about it for at least like 5 years. So it's actually pretty sick that you actually followed through with it. And I guess I'm spoiled to have you here.
It's funny. It's you're right. It has been a long time. Like, I think I started it with just buying mics years and years ago, and they just sat in the garage because I was waiting for somebody else to do it with me, right? So I didn't want to have to host by myself because it's just a little bit harder to do that. And plus, if you have somebody with you nonstop, if you don't have a guest, you can just yammer back and forth to each other for an hour and nobody cares, right? So
no, honestly though, that's like one thing I do remember. I remember like years ago you asking me like, what do you know about podcasts? Like, you know how to get them started. So like, I'm actually pumped that like you actually followed through with it. But
yeah, it's been a learning experience, that's for sure. It's funny, I believe I've said this already before. So the guy one of the guys I was in Chicago with, Ryan Butler, his fiance, which I can now say because they just got engaged. By the time this comes out, it'll be 2 weeks ago. His fiance, she started one, and Martin was on it, and I went on to YouTube and I watched it. Like, I need to get my button gear here, man. Like, she probably just thought of it, and like within a month or two just said, screw it, I'm just going to do it. And I'm sitting on, like you said, 4 or 5 years of waiting for that right time. That the right time just never comes for anything, really. So
yeah, so like in terms of the podcast, like obviously you're doing it because you're into it, but like you probably don't have like an end game, but like how do you think you can actually grow, or like how are you going to get different guests? Like what would be the perfect situation for you opposed to just having fun, bringing your buddies on, stuff like that?
Well, I think that's just how it's going to be for the first little bit. Just anybody that I can get on, obviously I'm going to. So if I end up having to recycle buddies on left, right, and center, like I do have a plan for once a month. Martin and Brent and I, we're going to get together. We're going to call it IBM, Ian, Brent, and Martin. This is kind of a take on the acronym of itself, as long as we don't get in trouble for that. And then that'll alleviate me having to get 4 guests a month. Now I only have to find 3, right? So, I don't know. It hasn't been a big deal so far. I've got 5 people lined up. So they've been coming in almost faster than I can record them, I guess, since I'm only doing it once a week, which I shouldn't say faster. Every time I get someone lined up, there's always been an issue with their timing and my timing. So that's going to be normal. That's why I'm trying to get ahead of the game. So eventually I'm going to get to the point where if someone's schedule doesn't line up and then they have to wait 2 weeks, it's not a big deal. But for now, like sometimes I might have to do like a solo cast where I recorded one where I was going to review Deadpool and Twisters. So I did it. It was like a 20-minute long little bit or whatever, right? So yeah, so it was all set up, and then all of a sudden we decided that I was just going to record one in Chicago. So I just did that, and on the way home, I literally edited and put it out while we were driving. So it worked out, so I didn't end up having to do the solo one. I was hoping that if I could minimize the solo ones to say like one every 10 episodes, right? So just people don't want to hear me just yammer on any more than I want to talk by myself.
I mean, to be honest, I kind of like the solo episode you did. It's like talking. I don't know how you did it. I don't know if I could talk that long. I just picture you sitting in a mirror, telling yourself what to do. But also, I guess it starts off in terms of like you also have like cool people around you with things to talk about. But also like you being from Stratford, I'm sure there's like definitely some interesting.
No,
I'm
I'm not from
yeah.
Stratford.
Yeah.
Sorry, I always say that to everybody.
Sorry, you living in Stratford.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some opportunities there, some cool people. Like, what do you think it's going to take to get Bieber on?
That's a tall order. It's probably right up there with saying, "Hey, what's it going to take to get Brad Pitt on next?"
Because honestly, I was thinking like if I do good on this podcast, I might go on Rogan next. But
I like that. Strive for the stars.
But yeah, I heard you talking to your one podcast as well, like about like doing the Zoom. I think you should do like video before the Zoom.
Well, yeah, like Zoom would be the video. That was just like a kind of a stepping stone, but the more I've kind of done a little bit more research into it, I think I have an idea of what I want to do, but I have to upgrade some stuff before I can do the Zoom, or not Zoom, video. And then it'll just go straight onto YouTube. I don't think I'm going to bother putting it through the RSS feed that I'm going through now. So it'll probably just be straight to YouTube, which is fine. But yeah, my MacBook, it's 2010, 2011. I can't put any of the required software on it that I need to be able to do this stuff. So even if I have all my audio done in GarageBand, I was going to use CapCut, and then I can meld the two together, like the audio and video, but I can't put CapCut on this MacBook. I tried this morning and it didn't work. So, but it'll happen eventually. So,
yeah, like, I guess this is like completely off topic, but you mentioned like Deadpool and like Twisters and stuff. I'm not like too familiar what movie it is, but I saw like how Robert Downey Jr. is playing like Doctor Doom and coming
Dr.
back.
Doom,
yeah, how do you feel about that?
well, I love Robert Downey Jr. I can't wait to see him back in there. I hope that they're not doing it the way how I've heard some people online have been saying that he is Tony Stark, but it's a different timeline or something, and he's basically turned bad, and now he's become Doctor Doom, which to me doesn't make any sense. But I also don't read the comics, so I guess there's some sort of vision or timeline that did happen or does happen. Again, don't quote me on that. That was just what somebody at work told me. But
Like, you mean like in the sense of like what, like because like what I think is like he's like the most iconic actor. Like everyone loved him as the actor of like Iron Man. So like why put him in another movie? It's like, are you gonna put like Daniel Radcliffe as Voldemort? That's the way I see it. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah, that's what I just think is super, super weird.
Well, I think it's because they want him back in. They probably don't know how, and he probably doesn't want to play Iron Man forever, right? So this might be his way to get back in. But to me, it doesn't make any sense because Doctor Doom was, as far back as I can remember, again, I only watched like cartoons, movies, whatever. But Doctor Doom was Dr. Von Doom. I forget what his first name was, but he was a doctor with the Fantastic Four that, like the other ones, was affected by, I forget what it was. It was like a meteor or whatever it was. They were on a space station, and they weren't well protected enough, and they each ended up with their own individual powers. And that's how Dr. Van Doom became. So they'd have to completely change that to what I had mentioned before about making Tony Stark all of a sudden turn evil from a different timeline. So I don't know. It's like
all that like multiverse or whatever they call it.
That's gotta end.
It kind of like confuses me. But yeah, one thing I guess like, well yeah, to be honest, I don't like it at all. But in terms of like, I just hope that like no other like Avengers or doesn't like align with that at all in the movie, which obviously doesn't because it's that. I mean, to be honest, I don't know, but I don't know. I just think it's weird.
I agree. Yeah, the multiverse thing, I've never liked that. It gives them too much of a window to change too many things, and I get the comics have done that for decades, but as a moviegoer and watcher, you're complicating things, and I just find that I don't know if it's your attention span. You just want to watch what's right in front of you and take that for what it is, as opposed to going, wow, did this happen originally, or who is this guy, and is he from this timeline? Which Endgame was kind of like that, where you had multiple people that were from different timelines, like who's who. Like, I don't know, just
I found with like Endgame is pretty like easy to understand, but like even that like new Spider-Man, or not like new, but like the most recent one. It's
Yeah.
like how they bring all the characters back.
oh, I love that though.
I love the movie, but like yeah, no, I was fired up. But yeah, still, it's just like, how does this happen? You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's super weird. But you could find a different actor, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah. If they're gonna make if they're gonna make Doctor Van Doom Tony Stark, then they should just squash that and just go with a different actor and have somebody else play him. They're just you're wrecking his legacy in the franchise, really, if you're gonna start just pimping him out to different characters all the time.
Yeah, like maybe he needs a paycheck.
Yeah, well, I think he got $20 million for about 10 minutes worth of work in the last one, because he just had to do voiceovers and his face, because almost everything was in the suit, and then he had a couple scenes where he died, I guess, but again, that was just his face attached to the top of a suit. They could have recorded that anywhere nowadays. So,
And like that's the other thing too, is like for all we know is like maybe Doctor Doom doesn't even take his mask off, you know what I mean? So we don't even see him.
that's true. I
Like-
mean, that seems to be quite popular now with a lot of actors. Where I look at Daniel Craig played in one of the Star Wars movies. You could tell it was his voice, but you never saw him because he was inside that stormtrooper outfit. So.
I just hope they don't do that cheesy. I forget the villain or like kind of like the new Darth Vader and like the newer Star Wars when he does that like cheesy mask takeoff.
Yeah.
I hate that. But yeah, that's also going back to the podcast. That's one thing you need. You need like the fact person. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we just talked probably a bit of nonsense. You need like Allison or something.
Yeah.
It's like, Allison, look that up.
Yeah, you mean like Jamie for
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, now you're talking big money. Now I got to pay somebody.
I mean, if you're looking for someone.
You're volunteering? All right. We'll have to do it remotely, though, since you're in Barrie. So I'll have to call you up and go, hey, I need you to check something for me.
I mean,
It might take a while.
so like you grew up in Ottawa.
Yep.
So like obviously like Ottawa's like spread out. Like where did you actually grow up in Ottawa?
It was Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, I was born in Ottawa, and then I think it was either three or four, and then we moved actually into Canada, and then it was Canada right up until I moved here.
And like obviously I know like your parents lived there and stuff. Like did you have other family
Yep.
that lives there?
Yeah, my brother's still there with his wife and his two boys, Braden and Ethan. So
You move into you move into Stratford. That was your first time like essentially moving away from home.
well, not from my parents' house. I moved out from my parents' house. I lived in a cabin out in the woods actually for a year.
Where?
It was in West Carleton. It was God, I can't remember, McLaren's Landing, I think it was called. It was awesome.
How does that even come about?
Well, it was my buddy was looking for a roommate because he had already moved in, and his other buddy bailed on him. So I moved in, and it was awesome. It was just a 2-bedroom winterized cottage basically with a massive stone fireplace, and then you're out in the middle of nowhere. It was awesome. It's every Friday night. That's where all the parties were in high school. So I was still in high school when that happened.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Like how old you were?
Yeah, I was 17, I guess. Yeah. It
Like
was
West
just my
Carleton.
last
You
year.
said West Carleton where it was. Like
Yeah.
how far is that from Ottawa?
Well, from Canada, it was about 25 minutes.
Yeah,
So that was my drive every morning. So
that's not too bad. But
until I moved out. So
yeah, because I mean, like moving away from like all your like family, was that like a big thing for you when you moved to Stratford?
it was in the beginning. I was actually driving home probably once a month, if not more.
Just because you miss it, or
Yeah, I was just all my friends were still there,
Yeah.
and then that once a month turned into once every 2 months, and then every 6 months, and now it's like once a year that I actually go back. So, which I should go back more because my dad passed away in 2017, and I don't know, it was difficult in the beginning even going back just because every time I walk in the door I was expecting to see him there, and he wasn't, which isn't really fair to my mom because she's still there, right? So,
Yeah.
but hopefully I'll get back there in the next month or so before the weather starts turning crap, and then get some time in with the family. I know my brother's been waiting for me to come back too. So
Your brother used to live in Barrie, didn't he?
yeah, he did actually.
I don't know why I always remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, because I remember, like, obviously, like, I grew up in Barrie. And then I remember, like, growing up here in high school, everything like that. I was just, like, so eager to get away from home. But then when I went to, like, college in London, I remember getting there, and I was, like, first time I've ever been, like, homesick.
Yeah.
It was weird. Spent, like, all this time, like, trying to get away from home. And then once I was there, I was like, oh, I want to go back. And then, yeah, went to school in London. Lived there for, like, about 5 years. And to be honest, I love London. Probably, like, one of my favorite places. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
I've only been there a couple of times, and maybe it's because of where I go to the malls and stuff there all the time, but outside of that, I think the only spot I've ever really been to is like around the fairgrounds, and it's dodgy. Like it's cringy down there.
yeah.
So
That's not the place you want to be.
no. So that's what I always picture London being. The malls and then that.
Like, I like it in the sense of, like, it's, like, kind of like the mini hub of, like, Toronto.
Yeah.
Like, for, like, people like Stratford. It's like you can drive to London opposed to, like, me from being from Barrie going to Toronto.
Right.
In terms of, like, stores and everything. But yeah, honestly, like, yeah, people love, like, London just for, like, oh, it's a party, like, whatever. But I actually, like, liked London more when I was, like, out of school and just, like, the actual, like, city itself.
Yeah, like the nightlife and stuff.
Well, no, not the nightlife, like the actual, like, city. I love how
okay.
they have, like, different, like, parts. I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
But yeah, different, like, towns, like Byron. I forget the other one, but yeah, that's what I really liked about it. But yeah,
Yeah, see, people in Stratford are lucky because we can either go to London or Kitchener-Waterloo, which is equally the same distance apart, so you can pick one or the other. And I know some people have their reservations about Waterloo because they think it's crappy, but I feel like you have the other 50% saying London's crappy, Waterloo's better, and then the other half says, oh, London's awesome, Waterloo's crappy. But I guess it depends on where you are, where you've been, and where you want to go, really. Like if you need something in like that section of London and you're there all the time, you're like, I love this place. Like this is where I want to hang out, right? So
the one thing I will say about, like, Waterloo and Kitchener is, like, this is driving. I hate driving down there.
yeah.
Like, all the one-way streets and whatnot.
Oh, you'd hate Ottawa then. Downtown Ottawa, every other road's one way.
Yeah, no, I could
Oh,
not
sorry,
survive that.
that's not right. Every road is one way, going in the opposite direction as you're going down, which I actually like. It's a grid, and everything's set up perfect. That's how I think every city should be. It should be set up in a grid, and it keeps everything nice and simple and not complicated. And then you've got other cities like Kitchener-Waterloo, where the roads are all over the fucking place, and you don't know where you're going.
But, like, also in that sense, it's kind of a biased opinion because you grew up in Ottawa. So
True.
it makes sense to you. You know what I mean?
I've heard multiple people that I'd say in the last week or two talking about different cities that they love the fact that it's a grid. And that
So they said they love Ottawa? It makes
no,
sense?
they weren't even talking about Ottawa. They were talking about other cities like
Okay.
American cities. So like they
Yeah.
were saying like Chicago downtown, it's a grid. It's all the streets run like in a straight line.
Yeah.
And then
That's what London is.
yeah,
It's all parallel.
one of the guys was actually talking about London, and they were just spitting out different cities. They were talking about the cities that were designed properly from the beginning into a grid, which
Yeah.
is which makes the most sense for everything, especially for your efficiency, for not wasting space for say buildings or whatever. You also you've got this weird shaped road that you're just sitting, what are we going to do with this?
No, 100%. Like, honestly, like, when I, like, lived in London, I would punch into my GPS every day coming home from work because there's 4 different, like, routes. So it's just, like, whatever the fastest way. Obviously, like, I know all of them, but yeah, it's like every street's parallel. It's weird like that, but
Well, it's nice just to be able to drive in a straight line,
Yeah.
in a downtown situation, right? So
which, like, Barrie's completely different because they have a highway going through it. Not a lot of. So, like, me going to, like, the north end of Barrie, I'm hopping on the highway.
yeah, well, that's how Ottawa is too. They have the 417 that runs right down the center of it, and then you hop off where you need to. But then once you're off the highway, it's all grid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love Ottawa. if I had the choice, so like say like after the kids all grow up and they're all doing their own things, I'd be okay with going back to Ottawa. But that being said, I'm thinking of Ottawa how it was when I lived there, and it's been almost 22 years now. Or sorry, 21 years. Yeah.
It's like you saying that you would like be willing to move back there. What like intrigues you to do that opposed to like that beats Stratford?
Well, don't get me wrong. I love Stratford, and I probably won't move. But if I was to move somewhere, Ottawa's the spot where, well, either Ottawa or Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
I love Stratford, to be honest with you. I don't know if that's probably a bias.
Yeah, you just
biased opinion because my whole entire family lives there, but
you just like Bentleys. That's the only reason why you like Stratford.
yeah, honestly.
So speaking of family, Chris and I just got back from whitewater rafting in Ottawa. Are you? Not that I want to put you on the spot or anything, but are you up for going for maybe next summer?
No, 100% I am. But I was just like, it's funny. I was actually going to ask you that. Like, what? Obviously, I've never been there, but like, what are like? Is there advanced, intermediate? Like, can you do like how like you go like skiing? You go to like Blue Mountain. You go to like the Green Hill, Blue Hill, Double Black Diamond. Is it the same? So like, where you and Chris went, is everyone doing the same course, or can you?
I think everyone just does the same course. So there's different channels, but that's for different water levels. So just to make things not dangerous, like the route that we went, they said if the water was, I think they said 2 feet higher, then they would take offshoots because of the way how the rocks sat and everything. So if the water's too high on one, it could make it either too dangerous or it would just go right over top of the rocks, depending on how high or low they are, right? So
And like, so what? Like, all like you and Chris went. Were there any other people? Were you in your own?
no, we were in a raft with I think 8 others.
And you guys are all like, I don't know anything about it. Like, you just sit there and
Yeah, you just kick back with a cocktail. No.
sign
No,
me
it's
up.
it's literally like you literally are the engine for the raft. So if everyone stops, it makes it really, really difficult for the guide, because then the guide's like he's trying to steer, but if there's nothing pushing him forward, he's steering nothing. Have you ever tried turning like the steering wheel on a boat with it not on? It does fuck all, right? So you've got no way to actually steer, which makes it really, I don't want to say dangerous, but it could be, because you could end up going into, say, like a swell or whatever, sideways when you need to be going into it straight on.
Yeah, it's like a lazy girlfriend that gives up on paddling on a canoe, and you're just out there pumping. But that kind
I
of
thought you were
sounds
going to
like
say something else.
no. But yeah, it sounds kind of dangerous now that you think about it. So what? Like,
That was awesome. You'll be fine. Put it this way, there was so when we were going down,
I feel like I'd be fake paddling, so like other people work harder and just enjoy the ride.
well, that might make it more dangerous then. So there was 2 full large rafts, and then what they called a sport raft, which only had 6 people on it. So I guess ours had probably 10. So we got like the last 2 spots, and I think I said this before, but Chris and I, our trip to go see Inter Miami got canceled.
Yeah, why were you guys? You were going down there for like a match, no? Or like why?
Yeah, they were playing TFC, so we decided back in January that we wanted to go for our birthdays because we're only 6 days apart.
How did that even what happened? What the cancellation?
Oh, Flair canceled her flight and didn't tell us. I went to check in the night before, and all of a sudden the date's been pushed back a day. I was like, oh crap, did I screw something up? So I went back into where I had booked through a separate site. I was like, no, it's supposed to leave on the 16th. We're supposed to come back on the 18th. And all of a sudden now it's saying we're leaving on the 17th. We're coming back on the 18th. And not only are we coming back on the same day, which is fine, but instead of coming back in the afternoon, we're now coming back first thing in the morning. So we'd literally be flying down the day of the match, landing just in time to get to the pitch to watch the match, go out for a couple hours afterwards, and then get up super early in the morning to be back at the airport for, I think it was 7 or 8. No, I think it was 6 or 7 actually. So we were just like, well, this isn't worth it.
And what was the match? Like, who was playing?
Oh, it was Inter Miami and TFC. So we were obviously cheering for TFC, but we wanted to see Lionel Messi play just once. But he ended up getting hurt in the last match for Copa America. But Chris and I decided, you know what, we're just going to go anyways. And then, of course, this happened. So I basically told them we're going to ask for a refund because that was one of the options. Either ask for a refund or save it and book it for another time. So I was like, just cancel it. But that took a month to get the money back. But anyways, so just to go back to, so the day of, we said we'll figure it out in the morning because this is at like 11 o'clock at night, so the night before we're supposed to fly out, with no warning from anybody at all that anything had been canceled. So then the next morning, it's like, I don't know, like 9:30, and Chris and I are just chatting on the phone, like what do you want to do? Like, I go, you want to go to New York City? He's like, we could. He goes, what about Ottawa? I'm like, yeah, I'll go to Ottawa. So I was like, cool, I'll pick you up in 30 minutes. So I drove over, picked him up, we started driving. He booked hotels along the way, and he goes, hey, you want to go whitewater rafting? Like, sure. So he calls them up, and we got the last 2 spots on in one of the big rafts. So
situations like that, like just last minute, no plans ahead.
Those are the best trips.
100%.
I hate it when stuff gets over planned. Like,
because then you have expectations, right? I'm a last minute guy.
Those are the best. My brother's always been envious of that because even when I was younger with my friends, we would always just kind of pick and choose what we wanted to do last minute. So we had friends that lived in Montreal. We had friends that lived in Kingston. So every weekend it's either we go downtown or, hey, want to go to Montreal? Sure. 10 minutes later, we're physically driving to Montreal, right? Whereas my brother, him and his friends, some of the friends always wanted to have like basically an itinerary of what they were going to do all weekend. So he said it always took the fun out of anything. And then it was really stressful because things aren't working out. And
yeah, you plan all these things and they don't work out. And then, I said, you have those like expectations. But yeah.
Like even coming here, I told everyone else in the family, look, we're going to shoot for 8:30. I want to leave by 9.
Yeah.
I didn't care when we actually left, but that just kind of gets everything going. And then I think we left at 10. And everyone else was stressed out that we hadn't left yet. I'm like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, honestly.
We're gonna get there when we get there. It's not a big deal. But if you don't put some sort of plan to initiate the getting going part, that's the only part that I care about. Just get going.
And that's the big thing, at least with like my friend group, is like any friend group, you need a commissioner.
I like that.
And that's like one thing that we don't. Me and my friend group, there's like 8 of us. We always have these good ideas, like anything like that, but no one steps up to plate. Actually, there's one commissioner, and it's just like when we play like hockey. I'm playing like baseball, like men's league right now. Terrible. But yeah, Commissioner Drew, he stepped up to plate, pays the whole thing, plans everything, sends all the emails. But like, that's what you need for anything, right?
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is what you need is a travel commissioner.
Yeah, and it's not me.
As long as you get to go along for the ride, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll complain about the not having commissioner, but I'm not stepping up to plate.
Well, sometimes it's a big task, right? So, what's I think even better than having a commissioner is just having 3 or 4 guys, or whatever size group your friends is, right? And everyone's kind of on the same page where you just say, let's go do this.
Yeah.
And just drive and go. And then along the way, any one of you just calls and says, is this available? Can we do this? No? No big deal. Just move on to something else. You don't have to have what's in your head at the time. You just do something.
Yeah, even going back to like with you and like Chris, like so many people would like that would throw them off. They wouldn't want to do anything. Like, oh, our plans are ruined.
Yeah.
I'm just like, let's go do something else.
Well, it was great when we were down there. We were out, I don't remember the name of the place, but we were on the second floor looking down, and Chris goes, I think that girl's peeing on the street. I go, nah, she's just sitting down. She looks like a server from the bar that right across called the Grand. And she's sitting there, and then all of a sudden she stands up, and I was like, oh, yeah, I don't think she's a server there. And she didn't have her pants down, but she peed. And then all of a sudden she gets up and she just starts walking, and she's like stumbling, like, oh my God, like she's like completely whacked out of her mind. And she walks up close to where there's a busker playing, and all of a sudden she just starts dancing, and Chris goes, look at her, living her best life. And then she danced all the way across the street. It was funny.
That's hilarious. I know you're like big into soccer and everything. Like, did you play growing up?
Yeah, I played for the City Canada. It was
Like, has that always been your sport?
no, well, younger, yes. As I got older, I transitioned more into volleyball, and then
Like playing volleyball or watching volleyball?
playing volleyball indoor. And then whenever I had moved from Earl March in Canada, high school, to West Carleton, which we had talked about before, we would cut class and go to the beach because it was right along the Ottawa River. And we'd go and play beach volleyball like a couple times a week. It was awesome. So there'd be like, we get anywhere from 4 to, I'd say, 8 guys that would go out. You're always 2-on-2. So whoever lost off the court,
Yeah.
next group up. So
Kind of like the Top Gun.
yeah. Well, maybe not quite like that. So, but we also had there was a guy that his dad owned like one of the biggest construction companies in Ottawa.
Good guy to be
And-
friends with.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. We'd have parties where we'd have like he would go and get it. He wouldn't ask permission, obviously, but he would get one of the guys from the pit to open up like one of the quarries
Yeah.
that had water in it and stuff, and they'd have sand all the way along like the edge of the water, so we could play beach volleyball there. They'd put like the great big huge shovels.
Yeah.
They'd put those at the entranceways with the buckets touching up at the top, and you have to drive underneath there, and that's how you knew that you were in the right spot. It was kind of cool. I loved high school. It was a good time. There's always something going on. I swear every weekend.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't, somebody made something happen.
No, exactly. I saw like, yeah, positive and negatives for sure. I love looking back on it. Like going back to like me knowing you. Well, obviously you're my uncle, but like soccer's your number one sport. Like, did you always follow it?
Well,
Or like, when did you really get serious into it? Because you're not just like a soccer guy. Like, you're like,
it wasn't until 2004 that I actually started following a club. Before that, I just watched it randomly. I didn't care who was watching. I just enjoyed watching it, which is funny because that's why your mom knew that I really enjoyed watching it. So one year for my birthday, she gave me 2 shirts, but she didn't know which club I followed.
what'd she get you?
She got me a Chelsea shirt and a Manchester United. And even at that point, I didn't follow anybody. I was like, oh, cool, thanks. So I had them. And it wasn't until, I could be wrong on the dates, or the years. I'm pretty sure it was 2004 was the year that Rooney came out and played for England for the first time. And he had just signed with United. So he was with Everton before that. I didn't know anything about him until I started watching that. And it was that tournament that I actually started to follow him. And then that's how I became a United fan. So
This might be a stupid question. Sorry for the listeners out there. But like Rooney, he was the guy that's like super aggressive, no?
what do you mean by super aggressive?
I don't know.
Like Vinnie Jones was super aggressive.
Well, no, not super aggressive, but like he played with like an edge.
Oh, for sure.
I see, like,
when he was younger,
yeah.
absolutely.
Question.
like-
Sorry, you go.
Like Rooney came out in I believe it was his first match.
More aggressive than most.
I'd say so, yeah. Was it 3 goals? It was either 2 or 3 goals he scored in his debut for United, and that was in a Champions League match. So it was. I know I'll get a lot of pushback from this, but I put him right up there with the Ronaldos and the Messis when he was younger. Closer to the end of his career, obviously he struggled. He had, same as a lot of guys, it's your age starts to catch up with you. He didn't have the same quality players around him, so you could see the frustration on his face, especially when you're a striker and you're running all the way back to help out the defense. That's not good. I mean, everything about that situation cried, it's time to move on or something, right? So after Ferguson left the club, it was, well, I shouldn't say left the club because he's still with them technically, just in a different capacity. But when he was no longer the gaffer, it was, everything kind of just went downhill. But so much of that was the lack of confidence that everyone above the manager, it just wasn't there. From the owners to the executive committee, they'd hire somebody like, they hired David Moyes right after Fergie, and they signed him to, I think it was like a 7-year deal with a massive contract. And I think it was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 months and maybe 10 months, whatever it was. And they ousted him. because they didn't get the results instantly that they wanted. But if they had done that to Ferguson, he would have been fired too when he first took over United. He didn't have instant success. It took a couple of years, and that's how any manager is going to be. You've got to slowly build a team. 7 months is enough for anybody to build a team. So that's my little rant on United. But we have a new kind of owner now, so that's all right.
I'm gonna try to word this properly because I don't want to because I don't know anything about soccer, and I don't want to get.
Nobody's listening to this
aggressive.
anyways.
But yeah, where was that one listener from? I remember on the one episode. Was it Belgium?
Oh, Belgium was almost from the very beginning. There's someone from Germany is also listening, and they've listened to it just as.
Can you see
many
just listens, or do they have to download it?
Oh, I don't know what they do. When it shows on
Like,
my
does
end,
Barrie
it's just,
come up?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then it listens. So I don't download them.
Yeah. So it's just views.
Yeah.
You can call it that or whatever. But yeah, it's a cool little analytics or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the fact that there's people all over listening. I mean, my first thought was, Belgium. Do they speak French? Are they accidentally hitting this thing by mistake or? But no, if you ever get a chance to go to Belgium, you should go.
Yeah, I haven't been anywhere.
Oh.
Crazy thing, and then we'll get back to the soccer question. Was I've never even seen the ocean.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
really.
Just go to one of the Great Lakes. Looks the same.
Yeah, Lake Simcoe. Back to Barrie. But yeah, in soccer,
Lake Simcoe. Can you not see to the other side of that?
the Avon River.
Well, that's pretty deep. If Uncle Chris jumps in, he said it goes over his head, but just.
In like soccer is like one thing like I don't understand, and from like an outside point of view, I'm not a big soccer guy like at all. I mean, I'll watch like the World Cup or whatever, kind of just feel included, but it always seems like the same teams are always winning.
In the World Cup?
No, not the World Cup, but like let's say like it always seems like Liverpool is up there. So it's like how come like in any and like to be honest, like I have no idea at all. So I'm asking more of a question opposed to me being like soccer sucks, the most amount of money. Like think about like I'm a hockey guy, whatever. It's like sure like Tampa Bay has been good for the last like 3 years, but like every team's like wavy. But it always seems like I don't even know if I'm like saying the right teams, but like Barcelona, Liverpool, they always seem to be like up there number one. So what does it come down to? And it seems like all like the best players always end up on teams like that.
Well, that's generally because you get the most exposure because you're at one of the top clubs. But to go back to what you're saying about
top clubs. So,
so if you're going to compare, Barcelona, obviously that's in a different league, right? So that's a Spanish league. Liverpool is,
but they're a top club in their league,
right?
So what does that come down to?
So when you compare, say, like the French league, the Spanish league, the German league, there's only really 3 clubs that fight for those top spots.
Yeah,
all the other clubs are just that's just how it is over in their leagues. Whereas in the English Premier League, I'd say it's pretty much the top 10. You can make the argument that I'm wrong. You can if you want. I don't really care. But so like you were saying about Liverpool. Liverpool had a long drought where they were not anywhere close to the top. Oh, I shouldn't say anywhere close to the top. They hadn't won the league in a long time. In the 80s, they were the powerhouse. In the 90s, it was United. And then hits here and there from all the clubs, like Man City and Arsenal for the past, say, decades. You can basically sum those guys up for the top 2 clubs.
Yeah.
You're always going to have other teams that are fighting, like Chelsea slipped a long way down, which they're hopefully building their way back up. Newcastle has kind of always been there. A team like Aston Villa, who for the longest time was a mid-table club, and now they're, I believe they ended 4th last season. And Ryan Butler just put his pick for this season, where they're going to end up in 3rd. I think it's a bit of a stretch, but you never know. Anything can happen, right? Tottenham's another club that was for a long time just sat just outside that Champions League spot. They always end up in either 5th or 6th, and now they're doing better than they were before too. They built a new stadium. That's another way to attract new talent, I guess, is you start spending money. I hope United never builds a new stadium. I don't care how small the change
Why?
rooms
What
are.
is like?
Oh, it was built in like 1879 or something. So it's Old Trafford's iconic. It's
Yeah,
you should never change that.
and
But
that's what that was my like to go on what you're saying is like, is there like iconic teams? So like, I don't know much also about like F1, but I know that everyone always wants to go like Ferrari or something. This is when we need Allison the fact check.
yeah, well, it's true.
Pull that up, Allison. Like, you know what I mean? It's like kind of like an iconic thing. To
Oh,
go
for
to
sure.
Ferrari.
You're gonna look at Ferrari's probably one of the more, if not the most well-known F1 team. Other than everyone thinks of Red Bull right now, but that's because of Max Verstappen.
I think it's
And-
evened out now, though. Apparently, the cars have like evened out.
You think so? Maybe.
We need Sean down here, my brother.
Correct. You do.
He's the one that told me that because because like obviously it was the same thing with like Lewis Hamilton with like Mercedes. The car was like so dominant, and then they kind of like switch roles, but now everyone's kind of like evened out.
Yeah, I feel like Mercedes they got caught cheating with their power plant though, and then as soon as they got caught and they had to switch back to what was legal, then all of a sudden their cars weren't quite as fast, and then all of a sudden you saw Hamilton no longer in front and park back, say in fifth or sixth, and he doesn't navigate traffic that well, I guess. And that was even said over the radio in one of the races that Hamilton's back here. I don't think he knows what he's doing in a crowd.
Because he used to always be in the lead. That's what
Yeah.
I see it. And like I don't know, you can be like obviously it comes down to the driver, but like someone has a faster car.
Yeah, if you've got two equal drivers, like the faster car is obviously going to do more. But I do feel like it kind of goes away. So Hamilton had his stretch, and he's still going to win them here and there. Verstappen's on a tear, but that could be coming to an end. The guy that I like now is Lando Norris. I think he's like a young up and comer that you can see the potential there, and you can see he's been finishing better and better as he goes along. But he could end up with the same thing if he all of a sudden becomes number one like Max did. Max, I loved until he started winning nonstop. I'm like, okay, you're the same reason why I don't like Hamilton is you just have a better car. That's all this has come down to now. So that's why I switched from him and I went to Lando Norris, but I could end up doing the same thing in 2 years if Lando all of a sudden becomes a completely dominant driver. I don't believe anyone's skill level is so good that they're that much better than everybody else that they win 10 in a row. That comes down to your car.
Yeah.
Which is crap. I mean, that's F1. F1's gotten better. I remember when I first started watching it, and the difference between the budgets for, say, at the time, Ferraris was $250 million, and Jaguars was at the bottom at, I believe it was $49 million. That's a big difference in your budget. A massive difference.
That's like one thing that not like confuses me about like F1, but like obviously, so like let's say like Mercedes, right? They pump all this money into like F1, whatever. Obviously, they make money from it, but is it like a marketing thing, like to have the fastest car, or is it just like the money that they make off the races? So like, let's say like the revenue, let's say like after like the full entire F1 season, Mercedes makes a revenue of like 100 million, right? It's probably way more than that, but is that the only benefit they have by sponsoring a car, or is there other benefits? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, Mercedes doesn't just sponsor a car, that is their car.
Yeah, but it's
So-
like I don't look at them like, oh, F1, Mercedes has the fastest car, I want a Mercedes.
No.
That's what I mean in terms
No,
of
no.
like, is the only benefit they get from the money that they're winning from the F1.
How many times did you just say Mercedes now, though?
Enough for them to pay me.
Enough that enough people hear the word Mercedes,
Yeah.
right? So you've got that aspect of it. Plus, you've got all the technology that goes into the F1 cars. You eventually start to see those down into regular, like the performance, like what they've done to their motors will eventually translate down into their cars.
Yeah.
How can we get more performance out of this without having to go to a bigger motor, which is, you look at, say, back in the 90s, F1 cars were V12s. Now they're V6s. They've been V6s for years, but they're V6 hybrid. So it's not the same kind of hybrid that we have in the cars now. So they've got, have you ever heard them like when they're going around the track and you can hear the guys talking about he's charging his batteries.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that can give, I forget how many extra horsepower it is, but it can give them. They usually use it to defend off someone else that's trying to attack them.
Yeah.
So they've got a small window of battery power that builds up over the course of the race, and it gives them extra horsepower. So someone's trying to pass them, they hit that button, they get that extra, say it's 20 horsepower. That guy can't pass because you've now just kicked your car up to that next speed. Just like the
Fast and Furious scene. That's what I'm thinking of.
no,
What does Vin Diesel say when he's like,
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
yeah.
Oh, but DRS is the same thing.
Yeah.
So DRS gives another 15. I think that one's 15 kilometers an hour. I think they said it's different from track to track, obviously, because of how big that DRS zone is. But as long as you're within 1 second of the car in front of you, that rear wing that pushes down on the car opens up and makes your car faster.
Like even like before, like I would never even like think of it, but like just like watching F1. To be honest, I'm more of a Drive to Survive type of guy more than F1. But like even just like the what is it, like hard tires, like soft tires.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that can cost you like the race.
Oh,
It's
for
like
sure.
different. But yeah. One question for you: what do you think the hardest championship in sports is to win?
That's a good question.
Do you want me to say mine first?
Sure.
Stanley Cup.
Based on
Based on the whole entire season, it's a best of 7. No one wins the Stanley Cup by sneaking in. Ever. It takes.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Look at South Carolina. They were in the worst division. They didn't have the points to even be there, but because they were in a division,
they
that was
win
so,
the
they
cup?
did.
When?
Was it 90?
Pull that up, Allison.
All right, hang on a second. We're going to fact check this right now. Okay, fact check over. I was wrong. But I do remember, and I didn't actually look up to see what year it was since we just checked to see if that was the same year or not that they won, which it wasn't. But they did have a season where they had so few points in that division that they were able to make it to the playoffs, even though there was a ton of other teams that had way more points. I get that's the way how it goes. I'm just saying it's shitty. It should be out of the whole East Coast, the top 8 points wise should go, but because they're trying to do it for fan base and to keep it all spread out, that's the reason why they do the things that they do.
So like, basically, my like opinion, I guess, argument to that is like it's the same thing with like in the NHL. It's like the President's Cup trophy. They finish the team with the most points. There's like a President's Cup like curse. They never end up winning.
Yeah.
But what I mean by like winning the Stanley Cup and why it's the hardest, because it's a best of game. It's 7 games, right? So the best team always wins the cup. Whoever, and when I mean best team, it's whoever works the hardest, and it takes a whole entire team, goalie, everything, third line, completely everything. You look at like the NBA, like I forget what year it is, but like when LeBron was on the Cavaliers, he like brought them to a championship, and the roster was absolutely garbage. One person can do that. In hockey,
Hold on. I think you're shorting out. You're underselling the other players that are on there. You don't have to have a star-studded team to have guys that support you and guys that are still good at what they do. They might not just be the top guys from everywhere else, like everyone else has on their teams. This is like you're basically. I'm saying Moneyball for basketball. Get a guy that is good at getting the ball up. Does he score a lot? No, but he gets the ball to the right guy, which is LeBron. I'm not saying that LeBron didn't do some carrying on the team.
no,
But one guy can't win a whole championship.
yes, they can lead you there.
You think they did?
Yeah, if you look up,
So they could have taken everybody else off that court, and it would have been him against the other 5 guys?
you would have them out there. I'm not saying they didn't do anything, but the players he had around him, he led that team.
Oh, 100%. I'm not saying that he didn't lead it.
In the NHL, like let's say Connor McDavid, that's who I think is the best player right now. You can't do that in hockey. It's a best of 7 series, right? So no matter what, you have to be dialed in. The whole team comes together. That's what, like 18 guys, however many on a roster, including your goalie. Everyone's dialed in.
Yeah,
you like
I'd agree with that, but
you can't sneak your way into winning a Stanley Cup.
could you argue the same thing for baseball then? Also,
See,
also
baseball's-
7-game series.
Baseball's a hard argument for me because I'm not that knowledgeable about it. A lot of people will argue against me with football, saying like that's the hardest because it's one and done. But my thing is like anyone can have a bad game. You know what I mean? You could be like the bottom ranked team against like let's say like the Kansas City Chiefs. It's one and done, right? They have one bad game. You sneak past that round.
Okay, well, let's just look at what just happened. So we had Edmonton was down 3-0,
Yeah.
and they came all the way back. What if someone just made the argument, well, Edmonton just had one bad game at the end? They should have won that. That came down to one game.
It came down to one game, but they had to go through however many games. Like what? The NFL's 4 games, you make it to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, no,
game?
I'm not saying that. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Where
Yeah.
you're saying about the,
But it's not-
well, it comes down to having one bad game. Well, if you have a series that goes to game 7, it's whoever has that bad. it's
Yeah,
whoever
no,
has that
but
bad
like,
game.
Well, like what I mean by that is like you make it through the round just based off one game. So you have one bad game, you sneak through the round. So in hockey, it's a best of 7 series. You can't make it through a series off one bad game. That's what I mean by that. And
Yeah.
also, you haven't answered the question: what's the hardest championship in sports?
I still don't even know. I was trying to think about it while you were talking. I'd almost have to say hockey as well. I'm not sure though. I mean, obviously anyone that's in their individual sport will say theirs is, unless you're a golfer, or would you say golfing is? But that's tough too because that's just individual tournaments. It's not an accumulation. Well, I guess it is a bit of an accumulation by the end for your standings as a professional. But
And like in golf, it just comes down to you, right?
yeah, like
I mean-
LeBron, right?
Well, yeah, no, he can lead a team.
I don't even know why they even bother calling them the Cavaliers. It should have just been called the LeBrons.
Yeah, no.
Who do you think's better, LeBron or Michael Jordan?
Well, like I'm a little bit too young, so like I have no memory of like that.
How old are you?
26, turning 27 December.
Yeah, so I just had this argument with somebody on the podcast.
Yeah.
Juan, and he's only 23.
Yeah, so he's the same as me.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So-
Juan. Was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that episode. I thought he was older, honestly. But yeah, he has no input. But like one thing I will say from my sorry, I shouldn't say that. But sorry, from like my like to be honest, I don't. But like I don't know. Here's the thing. Michael Jordan seems like the best winner. When it came down to it, he's an absolute winner. Okay? But if you LeBron, best actual physical basketball player. If you were to build the perfect basketball player, what would you take from Jordan?
Everything. I wouldn't change anything about Jordan. Let me ask you
No,
this.
I'm not saying what you would change, but like you were gonna build a basketball player. It's LeBron. He gets better every year when he gets older. He's like Benjamin Button.
Does he?
Yes.
He just takes more fouls now than he used to.
Yeah,
He goes
but-
down more. He's a weak player. Whereas Jordan fought for every inch, every basket, everything you saw
he's a
about
winner.
him. Yeah.
And he turns it on.
Whereas
But
LeBron's
there's two
not.
different things. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
There's two different things. I think Jordan is so dominant, but if I was to build the perfect basketball player, LeBron's the best basketball player we've ever seen.
Let me ask you this then. Since you just said that LeBron carried the Cavaliers with nobody to a championship, then why is it then he should have gone to any other team, both the Miami Heat, which was completely overstacked, and Lakers,
Well, no,
and wasn't winning with better players?
okay. Well, he went back.
Do you want me to add in crickets for that silence
Yeah,
there?
seriously. We're gonna have to cut that out. But yeah. I don't know, but like also it just comes down to like you can get there, but it takes a certain next level to win.
So
And that's what I mean. It's like yeah, like sure, like maybe like LeBron, whatever, they can lead you there, but when it comes down to like the actual like championship, like even Michael Jordan, what it took him like 6 years to get a championship.
I
To be honest, I don't know. Pull it up, Allison. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. I think Michael Jordan's the biggest. He's a winner, most dominant. But if I was to build the perfect basketball player, I would build a LeBron. Same thing with hockey. Like, that's my argument. Connor McDavid is the best, most skilled hockey player we've ever seen. And it's hard to argue with, like, generations, right? Everyone will have that argument in hockey. Like, oh, the goalies were worse, better training, better equipment, blah, blah, blah. But, like, Connor McDavid is the best we've ever seen.
Are they, though? I mean, you can make that argument that everything was worse back then, but so was the equipment.
And everyone is doing that. They stepped above. That's what my thing.
I mean, like, just look at the equipment that the players have now compared to then. Like, when Gretzky first came into the league at 79 and started lighting it up, everyone had wooden sticks. I bet you the amount of weight that their equipment had and how shitty it was, or let's just go with the weight for now. The amount of weight that their equipment was, I bet you present day equipment is about as much as one skate is from back then.
And like my like counter argument to like people that say that is like everyone had it. It's like, okay, the equipment's worse. I'm not comparing Gretzky to McDavid, but how come no one else was doing what Gretzky was doing with the same thing? Same with like McDavid, right? But
right, so you're comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone had the same equipment. Everyone has the same equipment now. So, yeah, is there a massive gap between Gretzky and everyone else that was back then? Yeah, I think there was. Just like there's a massive gap now, right? So, but when you're going to start skewing stats, who shoots faster now than then? Now, you've got... I don't think they froze the pucks back then.
No.
Maybe they did. I have no idea. I shouldn't say freeze. They don't even freeze them.
Really? I thought that that's just a myth.
No, it's not a myth. It's a myth that they're frozen, but they have them cooled to 12 to 18 degrees with an ideal temperature of 14 degrees, and they change the pucks out every 2 minutes, which I just found out about. Oh, I've yet to find any
during an NHL game.
During the NHL game, they swap them out on an average of every 2 minutes. Obviously, if the play goes on longer than that, they're not stopping that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get Steve Miller on the.
That'd be a cool
So
guy.
that way I'll be able to confirm with him if that's true or not. But I read that in an article from I was out of Arizona. They were talking about that, where the ideal temperature of a puck is 14 degrees, which is obviously, unless they're talking about 14 degrees Fahrenheit, that's damn cold.
And yeah, like I wonder how, well, obviously, like how they determine that. And it's like that's someone's job to determine how cold the pucks get, but I wonder like the differences of it.
I'd imagine they would just keep it inside of a like a specific thing. They'd be line side with the refs would every time they go back over, they would grab a puck and they get it from the official line side, right? So,
yeah, but like what determines it being 14 degrees is the perfect temperature, right? It's like like what comes into consideration is like the fastest shot, slides the best on the ice.
I'd assume slides the best on the ice.
But then, to be honest, same, but like every rink is different. Like I've heard that like apparently like not the Air Canada Center, what is it, Scotiabank now, like where the Leafs play?
Yep.
Apparently the ice is terrible, it's soft, right? Yeah. So it's like different.
Yeah, forever the Ottawa Senators had the best ice for like 10 years. I don't know where it's ranked now. Like they've got newer technology, they've got newer everything now. So
did they end up getting a new, or like at least a deal for like a new a new arena? And I guess that's a question for you because you live there. It's because everyone always complains like early like, oh, no fans because it's the middle of nowhere. But do you think that's the reason why they have no fans?
No.
And what would be different if they moved to a different location? Let's say they were like right beside Parliament.
Well, they're talking about putting in the building at the Laurentian Flats right downtown, which would be shit. I mean, it's great if your plans to stay afterwards, then yeah, giddy up. But for anyone that wants to leave right after the game, you're now stuck in gridlock traffic downtown Ottawa, whereas currently you've got your own on-ramp, off-ramp right at the arena. I mean, you've got the best of everything. Yeah, just take it all together. They have not figured out how to get people out of an arena any faster than they did people coming into the Coliseum back in Rome, back in like Caesar's days.
So it just comes down to shitty fan base.
Yeah.
Because I always thought that too, and like I don't know, but like me being from Barrie, like we would trek to Leafs games, like stuff like that. Obviously, it's a different like thing, but
Yeah, but do you go every week, or is it just every once in a while you go?
well, no, usually we get given tickets. That's the only time.
Given.
No, because of all the like the Corbett people, right? They sell out and they're so expensive.
Yeah.
Like I remember for my buddy's birthday actually, we got standing seats. So that's like
Oh wow.
yeah.
Up in the thirds.
Yeah, I was sitting on the stairs and those were like $200 each ticket.
It's ridiculous. See, I
You can
think
get season tickets for Ottawa
yeah.
with that.
I think the NHL needs to go ahead and okay another team in Southwestern Ontario. They need to. I know they're afraid of taking away from Buffalo and Detroit, which I don't know. I don't know what the fan base is like in Detroit. I know Buffalo struggles a little.
Well, yeah,
But-
you watch a Buffalo game and like they play the Leafs and Leafs score, you can hear them.
Yeah. Well, that's how it is in Ottawa too, though. Well, it's the same both ways. So if you've gone to take a piss, and with the exception of the horns going off, which is horns only go off whenever the home team scores, right? You can't tell. Like, it's the same cheer, no matter who scores. If it's either Ottawa or Toronto.
So, like, do you think it's just like the people that live in Ottawa, they just don't care about hockey? Like, I don't get it. Why? Like, because if I lived there and I loved Ottawa Senators, I'd probably.
I think the fan base will grow. The problem was is that when they came into the league, half of Ottawa was Toronto, the other half was already Montreal. So you've got to wait for a little bit before your fan base builds, because you've already got a city that's divided between two
So
other
when did
NHL teams.
When did Ottawa come in the league?
Was it 92? No. Yeah, maybe 92, 93, somewhere in there. I still have the poster
Couple
at
decades.
my parents' house.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, but you got to. If you look at how many Sens fans there actually are, it has grown quite a bit. Like I know people at work that are Sens fans, and they go down every 2 or 3 months. It's a bit of a trek to go and watch hockey. If
Yeah.
you just, you know what I mean, like you're driving 6 hours. I mean, most people don't drive 6 hours for anything,
No.
let alone going out just to watch a game. But I know one guy at work, Keith. He home opener every year. They go and rent a box, and they go down with like a whole bunch of people. And it's a good deal because it's
I'll
Ottawa,
split,
right?
Yeah.
I think you can have up to, I think he said 18 people in it or something. So sounds like an alright time.
Yeah.
But he said it's one of the lesser teams. So obviously, if you go with one of the big teams, that price gets jacked up. It's like everything else everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So
No, same thing with like the NBA. Like you go watch some bottom team, it's X
Right.
amount of price, but like you go to watch like them play like Golden State Warriors.
yeah, everyone wants to go and see Steph Curry.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Ottawa is like really stretched out. They have a bunch of different like demographic and different types of people, and there's so much going on there that like who cares about hockey?
Well, they don't have any teams though. Like they had a AAA team for
Which doesn't make sense.
which they
should.
might. I don't know if they still have it or not, but.
Like you think about like Toronto, like I don't know, maybe Ottawa's the same, but like Toronto is just like everyone like moves there from everywhere. Like that's like their like dream, I guess. It's just different people from like everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, but Ottawa's one of those places that people love going and visiting. It's the nation's capital.
I hate it.
The actual population itself, though, is small compared to Toronto, say.
Yeah.
So, like, I think it's only like just over 1 million, including like the surrounding areas, whereas Toronto's 4 million, including the surrounding areas. So, I don't know. That's why I was saying I think somewhere else in Southwestern Ontario could, like, if you put one, say, in like KW or London.
It had to be
That
London.
would-
Like London's OHL team doesn't. No, but even then, like you were saying before, it kind of affects Buffalo, Detroit, even Toronto.
I think it would also end up affecting the London Knights. Because
Yeah.
if you also have an OHL team, people are going to, well, I'm just going to go and watch them.
Like they like in like Barrie, like me and my dad would go, and like you can get tickets that night. You just walk over to the door, or whatever. It's actually gone like way down since we could even do that. when I was in college, we go to like London, and you'd have to like book them like weeks in advance, sold out place. But
That's like a lot of teams though. Like they go through like little waves of popularity, right?
Yeah.
As soon as they start doing well, all of a sudden everybody wants to go. Team starts to drop off. Like, I'll see them next year. So I don't know. I mean, if you want to go up to the Sioux and watch the Bulldogs up there, I would love to go watch that. Watch Shorzy play.
I haven't seen the new season yet.
No?
I heard you talk about it on one episode. I liked Letterkenny better.
Yeah. I watched, I guess, the first 2 or 3 seasons of Letterkenny. I think they're up to like 7 or 8 now.
Yeah, I haven't watched it that far. But
yeah, Shorzy, I got right into it. I couldn't stop watching. I just kept going to the next one. Allison hates them. She can't stand his voice, like Shorzy's.
yeah.
It's just so high pitched and whiny that they're like, wow, you got to remember it's a TV show and it's a comedy. So
And like I feel with Shorzy, like there's too much of just him talking. I guess it's the same with Letterkenny.
Yeah.
But like every time I watch Shorzy, it's like, okay, I just listen to this guy talk for like hours, right? But yeah. You watched that sprint show, no? I haven't got into it.
the one with Richardson,
Yeah.
the girl, yeah.
Was it good? Like compared to like
I liked it. It had I want to say Michael Johnson, the guy that was trying to claim that the 200 meter is the fastest man on the planet, so he wanted to race Donovan Bailey, and then they raced.
no, that's Ben Johnson, no?
No,
The
no,
guy who cheated?
no. I'm talking about Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson was the 200. That was his specialty. And then he wanted to race Donovan Bailey. So they said, well, I'll tell you what, we'll race the 150.
Yeah.
And Donovan was beating him. All of a sudden, Johnson pulls up with a hamstring injury. He just grabbed the back of his leg. He was already losing. So, I mean, I'm going to assume that was just him just trying to save face.
I mean, it's not a
not
bad
really
play.
sure.
I remember in like lacrosse, I like missed like a breakaway. Oh, ACL, limp off.
That's just that easy.
But yeah, I don't know. That's a tough argument too. You can't really determine like the fastest person on the planet.
Well, it's always been the
Off of-
100 meter, though. So why would you all of a sudden change it to 200 just because
Yeah,
this
but
guy
why
won?
is it the 100 meter?
It's
You
That's-
can't. No, like
That's just always been the standard. Standard's always been 100 meters. Why would you change it, though?
yeah, but you're the fastest at the 100 meter.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean you're the fastest on the planet.
Well, you're the
That's what I
fastest,
mean.
fastest person on the planet at the 100 meter.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's another question I got for you.
But as soon as you hit the 100 meter, that second 100 meters tends to be slower than the first.
Yeah.
Unless you're, I don't know, maybe you're freak and you keep accelerating further and further, and that's why you suck at the 100. That's why you need to do the 200.
Well, that's like Usain Bolt. I'm not saying he sucked at the 100 meter, but like he was never, he was never.
That'd be
he
a
was
tough
never-
one to defend.
He was never fresh out like out the gate. You know what I mean? He'd
No.
like, pick up speed.
Yeah,
But,
he was always like the last 50. So when Ben Johnson raced Carl Lewis, that was the same thing. Ben Johnson was a fucking beast in those first 50. That's why they always said he had to have a clean start and power through because Carl Lewis with his long legs would catch him at the end, but he didn't.
I just
And
remember.
it's such a bullshit story with the whole drug thing. They were all on it. There was an article back in the day, and
He just got like. He was just like the. What's the word I'm looking for?
Scapegoat.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
So there was an article. I want to say it was People Magazine. I could be wrong on that, so
Didn't they
don't hold me to that. But everybody but Carl Lewis admitted to being on steroids
Yeah.
for that race. So, but hey, the guy that won was clean. Hey, good for him. Chances are 0% that he wasn't.
No. I just remember that one commercial with Ben Johnson. I forget what it was, but it's like, I cheat all the time. But
It was the Cheetah energy drink.
yeah, pull that up, Allison. But we'll
I'm gonna make that a staple. Pull it up, Allison.
honestly. But yeah, I saw this thing. I don't know if it was Ben Johnson, but they were just comparing like the 100 meter to like way back then. So like the person that came in last this Olympics in the 100 meter would have won years ago the 100 meter, which makes sense.
Yeah,
But
but they've just gotten so much faster now. Like, I don't remember what Ben Johnson's number was. It was 9.89 or something, which was like the world record, the Olympic record at the time. But now it's I think Bolts was like 9.6 or something. Or
And he let up at the end.
Allison, check that, would you?
Yeah, seriously. That's
Gotcha.
like one thing too. Is like I don't know what was it like something like 500ths of a second, like that 100-meter final, and like so close. And what it comes down is like when your whole body crosses. So I forget the guy. It was like Noah Lyles. That's who won. But the guy who came second, his foot actually crossed first.
No, it was the other way around.
True. But yeah, his foot.
No, Lyles, it's like he kicked his foot out, and that's what allowed him to cross the line first.
Okay, I thought it was vice versa.
Yeah, no, it was the other guy. To me, the other guy won. His whole body, he was ahead of him. The only thing that was the difference was that Noel kicked his leg out.
Okay.
Well, to me, that's not crossing the finish line.
Thank God he stopped me. That's when
There you go. I'm the fact check on that.
Honestly.
And it's only because Allison sent me the picture.
Yeah,
They had
thanks,
that
Allison.
picture at the very end. So.
Pull that up, Allison.
Yeah, thanks, Allison.
But yeah, I don't know. The 100-meter, like, I just like thinking about it. It's like you train that hard, that long for 9 seconds.
I know. I actually said that to Allison. Can you imagine in any other sport, you're spending all this time and it's like a build up, like say hockey, whatever, or figure skating. It's a 2-minute program. It's a 4-minute program. 100 meter, 10 seconds. You're done. That's it.
It's like the Eminem song. You got one shot, one opportunity. But yeah, that's like what also like makes me think. So the decathlon, 10 events, right? How do you train for that? All right, so 10. Well,
Carefully.
Yeah, really hard. But
Yeah, really hard.
so all those 10 events, right? All have different training. Like if I'm ball throw or shot put, so that's an elementary school thing, but let's say like shot put, I'm training different than like you in the 100-meter, obviously, right?
Yep.
So how does the decathlon capture all those in one?
If
By
I do,
doing every single thing, or they narrow it down? It's weird.
no, they have to train for everything. If I had to guess, it'd be similar to like CrossFit. You know how they train in like so many multiple events, but they have to be able to hit and excel at all of them. They might have some that they suck at,
Yeah.
but they'll make up for it in other sections
Exactly.
of it, right? So
like that's the thing is like let's say like 100-meter I'm good at. It's like okay, I'm winning this. But like shot put, it's like okay, I'm good with 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
well,
gotta dominate.
if you look at Matt Fraser from, he was like the ultimate king for CrossFit. He wasn't dominant in everything, but he was dominant where it counted, and he just did his best in the ones where he didn't come first in.
Yeah.
So, but it was just like Lance Armstrong back in the day for biking. He didn't excel in everything. Like his team didn't necessarily win in everything. Some of his teammates did better than him. He was amazing through the hills, and there's other stuff that he didn't. But he relied on his teammates to help him out. So it'd be the same thing. You're still training to do your best in each one, but
Yeah.
some people are going to be better at other things than you are. So you just take what you can from where you're good at.
No, definitely. And like everyone has like different goals, even like the Olympics and stuff. Like me and my buddies were watching it, and like I explained it, kind of just like with like my dad, like figure skating and stuff. Like being at the Olympics is like that's like some people's like goal. Like that person that came like let's say dead last or whatever, they're fired up because their goal was to make the Olympics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Opposed to like being like that top person, but yeah. Do you think the decathlon person is the best, or athlete is like the best athlete in the whole entire world?
That's an interesting question. It's I've thought about this a bunch of times before. At one point, I did think that the decathlon or one of those multi-sported kind of events would they be the best athletes. I think I've kind of changed my mind over the years because this question kind of comes up, but in a kind of different way. To me, I look at that question as the same as like the GOAT. So look at like say someone like Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. He's the best quarterback, sure. He's not the greatest of all time for the football team. Throw him in another like a position, like throw him as center, see how long he lasts. Like maybe that guy's the GOAT. You know what I mean? Like
So he's the GOAT quarterback.
right. So most valuable player. That I get more because that goes from match to match, whatever, like, or of, say, like the Super Bowl, right? So that's, yes, one match, but, or one game, but it's who most affected that game.
Yeah.
So you get
biggest
most
impact.
valuable, right? But to call someone like the best athlete, so I guess it depends on what your definition of athlete is. Because
Well, it's the same thing as like the GOAT talk is like going back to like Tom Brady, like even like what we were talking about earlier, like Michael Jordan, like LeBron, like stuff like that. Is like everyone always has like a different opinion. Is like, okay, the GOAT is who has the most points, the most championships. So everyone has like a different like opinion on what classifies as the GOAT. To be honest, having a GOAT in anything is a hard thing to state because there's so many other arguments. I mean, I feel like it comes down to like you said, most valuable.
well, a perfect example would be,
championships and points.
but should it be defined on that? So perfect example. So I've always loved Emmitt Smith. I mean, guilty. I'm a Cowboys fan. A lot of people say that Barry Sanders, even though he had a very short career compared to a lot of other running backs, was the best. And maybe he was.
Have you watched that on Prime?
I started watching it. I haven't actually finished it, but
But anyways,
that is a valid point, that just because someone doesn't have the points or someone doesn't have the... What if you only played, say, 2 seasons as in whatever,
Yeah.
but you were dominant, and everyone's going, if he had played longer, he would have been the GOAT. Just the fact that you're even named in that should actually say something about maybe that guy is the guy that should be considered the GOAT. Because you could be the greatest of all time and only play a season or 2. You get hurt. You change your mind. You go in a different direction or whatever. Doesn't mean that you're not any less the best. So someone like Brett Favre used to be called the Iron Man because he never got hurt. So is he the GOAT because he never missed a game? You know what I mean? Like what are your determining factors to say that someone's the GOAT?
there's too many, and like one thing I will say is like you can never. That's just like a shitty argument. Like if he played this, he would be, because like you said, injuries, anything can happen. It's even like my dad always says with like figure skating, right? Coaches figure skating is like, yeah, he might have like a really good kid young, and it's like, yeah, maybe he's 7 years, like let's say like 10 years old. It's like, oh, like is he gonna be something? It's like any athlete. It's like there's so much things that can happen within everything. It's like I played hockey growing up. Maybe I was like, I mean, it's hard for me to say I was the best player, but like imagine someone like being like the most dominant player at 10 years old. They might fall out of love with the sport. Like anything can happen within those after years. So it's hard to like, you can't never be like, oh, if they did, because so many things can happen. Injuries, anything like that.
Yeah.
Trade. But in terms of the GOAT, yeah, I'm one of those like sports fans that just like appreciates greatness. Like I love seeing like, I don't know why I keep going back to LeBron, but like I love seeing that. Like I love seeing like the records broken. Like just appreciate greatness all around, right? I don't want like a comparison, but I feel like GOAT.
Yeah, because he's listening.
Yeah. Hey LeBron, answer my text.
Yeah.
But
I get what you're saying, but that's the reason why I think Michael
so
Jordan's
who's your
better.
GOAT? You keep going to Michael Jordan. So what? Something. So clearly, Michael Jordan's the GOAT of basketball.
Yeah, that's
for you.
That's
Okay.
all that I'm talking about. But
Okay, so
it's because
what's the definition of the GOAT in basketball?
Well, to me, that's an individual question. Because just because you've got championships, or maybe you had a longer career, so you've got more points, you've got more whatever.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So what's your definition of the GOAT?
Watching somebody play and see the drive that they have. I don't see the drive in LeBron. You want to go back and watch Michael Jordan videos? Someone said the smallest thing to him, and you just got a pissed off Jordan. There is no pissed off LeBron. Pissed off LeBron lays around trying to roll around on the ground, trying to get fouls. That's where he gets his points from. Not all of them. Obviously, I'm over-exaggerating here and simplifying things, but Jordan would power through everything. You pissed him off in that first half, he'd come back, you get 150% Jordan, and you regretted making that mistake of chirping him or doing whatever. That was what he was known for.
Yeah, it's like in The Last Dance, I took that personal.
Yeah.
He goes, puts up 50.
Yeah. And the look in his eyes says it right there. To me, the eyes say everything to a player. Like, you say something to him and you get that look back that Jordan would give, you're like, fuck, it's on.
Just competitive.
Yeah. And that's all he was. He was a pure athlete. It wasn't about the money. Like, yeah, he got paid tons. He was one that revolutionized the whole shoe industry for players, I think. But
You watched that movie?
yeah,
Good.
that movie was great. But yeah, it was just he was.
Funny enough for the
had that
listeners, I
passion.
know the podcasts aren't on YouTube, but actual visual. But Ian looks exactly like Ben Affleck.
Oh God.
But before we get into
No,
that
I
topic,
look nothing like Ben Affleck.
I agree with what you're saying, but I don't believe that that's your definition of a GOAT across every sport.
No, well, what would your definition of the GOAT be then?
Honestly, I don't. It's so hard. I think GOAT is just all like, not even like looking at like stats. Kind of like we said, like MVP. Maybe like obviously you need the stats and you need a championship.
Okay, so let's look.
But
at
it doesn't
someone-
come down to championships. Like you can have the most championships, whatever. But like actually, like bringing your team, like I don't know, it's hard. Like
Well, what would your opinion of Brett Hull be? Because he never won anything.
so he's not a winner and he's not a GOAT.
No, but so would you put him on the same level as Tyler Smith? I'm just throwing out a random name.
To be honest, I don't even know who Tyler Smith is.
I don't think anybody would. But that's what I'm saying, though. I'm just throwing out a random name. Would you put Brett Hull, who's got a famous name, so because he hasn't won any championships, would you put him on the same level as Tyler Smith?
Yeah,
A random name that nobody knows who it is. I'm sure there's a Tyler Smith somewhere in the NHL at one point.
like you would not the same level, but yeah, he's just not like a winner. That's where it differentiates for me. Like
So you don't think Brett Hull was a winner as a...
no, he didn't win a championship.
Fair enough.
No, like, that's just like there's a difference between being like a winner and like the best.
Well, then.
Like you don't need like let's say like Michael Jordan, right? You don't need to be the like. I don't know. I guess that's tough to say.
So if you won 10 championships and someone else won 8, the guy that won 10 is the GOAT?
It doesn't come down to championships, but so I don't know. It's hard an argument to make, but no, it definitely doesn't come down to championships.
Would you not say it has more to do with drive and their passion for the game?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. But to argue on your side, just to play devil's advocate again, the game has changed so much in the last 20, 25 years. Not just in basketball, but in every sport across the board. Where before it used to be people had more passion for their team. They stuck with their teams longer. And there was more of a rivalry between the teams. Whereas I find now, again, across the board in all sports, it's more of a business. And I think that's the way how it's looked at. So you don't have that hatred for the people on the other team. It's just that's just the team that we're playing tonight. So I think that passion's gone. So maybe that's the reason why you don't see that in players like LeBron. That being said, I feel like I still see that passion in Steph Curry. So
I agree with you.
It looks more like he carries the weight of the team on his shoulders and the disappointment and all that stuff. Whereas maybe it's just the way how LeBron presents himself, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it by saying that because he doesn't show it on his face or he doesn't whatever. I just see him whining when he doesn't get the calls. I don't know. The sport has definitely changed. All of them they've all changed in the last 20 years. So it is what it is.
Like yeah, no, I agree with you. But I stick to my argument about LeBron. The athleticism he has, everything. It's like, yeah, you keep talking about like the drive, the passion. It's like, yeah, you take that from Jordan, but
What's the extra athleticism that he has?
He's a freak of nature.
How so?
He's like 45 years old or however old is the.
Oh,
still the best.
It's just because he's gotten to a certain age.
Well, no, he gets better every single year. Every single year, like, he's a freak athlete.
So you think he's better now?
No, he's not better now, but he keeps maintaining it.
Oh, so he's like a Ronaldo.
See, I'm not a big soccer guy, so I can't compare that.
But Ronaldo was I believe he was one of the first athletes to have a personal chef, and his diet completely changed to make him the athlete that he is. Like he was better, faster than guys that were 10 years younger than him.
Yeah, it's kind of like Tiger with golf.
His training was way, I won't say way more intense.
He took it to the next level.
Well, all the managers from all the teams always said he's the first one on the pitch at practice. He's the last one off the pitch at practice, and he'd be there well afterwards. If there was something that he couldn't quite get, he would stay there until he got it. To me, that's the drive and the passion of someone that's the greatest of all time.
No, I agree with you, and that's what differentiates.
I'm not going to make the argument that Ronaldo's better than Messi. I think those two guys are both at the top. I think they're both equal. They play different positions. Their passion for the game. I think Ronaldo's got more passion for the game. I think Messi has more natural talent, but I think Ronaldo makes up for that with his athleticism.
Yeah.
So,
and honestly, I like that answer because other people will argue one side or the other and base it off certain things, certain aspects. But you're understanding they're great at both.
Yeah, 100%.
Things, right?
That's why I don't respect anybody's opinion whenever they trash one and say one's garbage. Well, if you think one's garbage, you don't know anything about the sport at all. You should probably just stop talking at this point. You know what I mean? I feel like they're embarrassing themselves by just talking. The fact that you're saying that you can call them 1 and 2 depending on who you are, but the fact that you're saying that one's garbage, well, then your guy's garbage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a ridiculous argument. You've got two of the best players in the same generation. You should be happy to have them. The fact that you get to argue against that. Yeah. Because usually you only get one. You know what I mean? There's usually only one super great player in a generation or whatever. So we were lucky in hockey. We had Lemieux and Gretzky at the same time. It does happen.
I mean, you were lucky. I'm a little bit too much of that. That's why I'm pumping up McDavid.
So we had Ovechkin and Crosby.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is weird because that was the year of the lockout. So they got.
Oh, when they started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. The argument with
but people argue
McDavid,
that about Lemieux.
About
going back to our what if he didn't have those injuries and the cancer and whatnot, that he would have broke. Sorry, I shouldn't say broke records, but even I've seen an interview Gretzky said that he was the best goal scorer, most dominant player, but he just didn't play long enough. But then again, that's the what if. He got injured and it didn't happen.
Yeah, but that could have happened, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he would have broken any records.
Yeah.
It also could have meant that would have made Gretzky try that much harder to stay ahead of him. Who knows? There's always a ton of what ifs.
Yeah, you can't say what if when it comes down to that. But going back to my original question, most dominant athlete of all time.
That wasn't your question. You were asking if it was the.
Well, no, we're talking about the decathlon.
Decathlon, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think the decathlon athlete is the greatest athlete?
Well, not the greatest, but
Well, yeah. That was your question. Because
but you know what I mean, the best.
They're the best in multiple sports.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
Most talented.
Yeah. Again, I guess it comes down to your definition of athlete. Which is where I'd gone before, right? I don't necessarily agree that all quote unquote athletes are athletes.
Yeah, we just watched breakdancing.
Yeah, we did. They were not athletes. But perfect example, ball players. Some are athletes, and I think some aren't. And when you had someone like Wells that played for the Blue Jays, he had a talent. He could throw the ball. He was a great pitcher, but I wouldn't consider him an athlete. People lump him in as athlete because he plays baseball. I don't look at baseball as a sport. It's a game. I think there needs to be a distinction between the two. But people want to... I know I'll get a lot of feedback on this.
Yeah, those listeners in Belgium are freaking out. But...
listeners in Belgium are freaking out about baseball.
But yeah,
they're probably talk about anything else.
I don't know. I understand what you're saying, but yeah, that can go on forever. What's all that talks is what's the definition of... what's your definition of an athlete? What's your definition of a sport? Why is baseball? But one thing I will say, I've been playing men's league softball. I swing out of my shoes and I can't get the ball out of the air past second base with the bat.
Do me a favor, don't tap the thing so much you're coming across the mic.
Yeah, baseball is like a hard sport.
It's a hard game.
I bet like both of us 200 fastballs, we wouldn't hit one. 200 pitches by a pitcher, we wouldn't make contact with one.
Yeah, because you're going against the best, right? So you go and play chess against the best, and you're not getting anything. You're never winning a game because they're the best.
Yeah, you did get me there. But yeah, no argument for that. You did get me there. But to my next question, one sport. If you could pick one sport, you could be the greatest of all time at best. What would you be?
That would depend on where you live.
And like, what do you mean? So yeah, so why is
So-
that? Does it come down to money? Does it come down to the sport? I think I'd be UFC. Think about it. You're the baddest.
Where?
UFC.
Oh, UFC. I think that's too much of a beating for the amount of money you get.
Well, yeah.
Like when Otani can sign a $750 million contract and doesn't get his face ripped off, I'd rather be a baseball
But if
player.
you're the
than
best,
a
you're like
Yeah.
you're the most badass in the world. To be honest, like I'm not getting punched in the face, but
So the reason why I said it depends on where. So if you're English or Scottish, you're looking at rugby or soccer.
Yeah.
Probably more soccer, especially for England. You get the bigger contracts and you get the fame. You've got everything, right? Canada's hockey, but hockey's only in Canada. The States has hockey, but they don't really look at hockey as much. They've got their basketball, baseball, football, right?
yeah, it's like Austin
So-
Matthews. Like he plays for the Leafs. Anywhere he goes in Toronto, he's getting noticed. But he goes back to Arizona.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nobody gives a fuck, right? So, that's a tough question. F1 drivers are known around the world, but only to F1 fans, really, right? Except for someone like Michael Schumacher. Everyone always knew his
Yeah.
name because he was a household name. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. Because we live in Canada, I'd probably want to be the best hockey player,
Yeah,
even though I suck at hockey. I didn't start until I was in my 20s. I'm like that oddball Canadian kid, but
I wasn't that good at hockey either. I played like growing up, but I was just a good skater because of my dad. But yeah, no hands. But
no hands.
no hands, no shot. Only could skate. But since I started playing men's league, I kind of like it because like there's one of them on the left. We're down by one. And they're like, Justin, go out there. Like I'm a men's league kind of player.
So you go out and score.
Well, no, but they just want to put me out there. But I never had that opportunity. But big lacrosse guy. But also, I would also want to be like that middle of the pack player. Make like $6 million. Not the pressure's on you, opposed to like being like the Connor McDavid making like 12 million.
Let me ask you this. So this is probably more of a soccer question. So, well, it's directed more towards soccer. I don't know if they do that anywhere else, but so there's lots of teams in England that will pick up a top-notch player, but then not play them because they've got better players.
Yeah.
So someone like Jack Grealish, who was bought by Man City from Aston Villa, he's a phenomenal player. But when he goes to Man City, he's just one of the guys on the bench. He might come on in the 60th minute or whatever. Would you rather be the top guy at a lesser club and play all the minutes you want, or get a bigger paycheck and play next to no time?
Well, for me personally, and I think the only reason why I have this answer is because I don't think I've loved the sport that much. So I would definitely take the more money.
Okay, let's put it this way. Let's say it's hockey. You're on a team and you're the top guy. You're number one. But you get signed, you have an opportunity to go to, say, the Leafs, and you get 10 minutes a game on the fourth line. Would you rather be the top guy playing all the minutes you want? Or would you rather go and play for the Leafs and be...
For the same amount of money, or...
You would end up making more money with the Leafs, but not playing.
Oh, yeah, so like that's what I mean. It's like I don't... Like for me personally, I don't think I've loved the sport that much for like... You know what I mean? Like... Which is also why I'm sitting here doing a podcast with you and my... But, yeah, like... I don't know. I get both sides of it. Like, they love the game. right? They want to like those people take the pay cuts, but like I've never loved the sport that much. Like one thing, like even I'm a Leafs fan. They'll look at the Leafs and complain about all these like big contracts, even like all these new contracts coming in, like the younger guys, right? But it's like the way I look at it is like, okay, you're at the like everyone else is getting paid. You're at your peak. Like it kind of goes back to like what ifs is like. I have an opportunity to get this paycheck that's going to support like whatever. Who knows what's going to happen? But also, yeah, kind of got off topic there. I don't love sports like that much, or sport that much.
So what's your favorite sport then?
Probably hockey or lacrosse.
Okay, so let's just say you're playing for Ottawa, right?
I would take the more money.
Yeah? What if it meant going down to the farm team?
More money.
Yeah?
Yeah. Probably.
But then, so the reason why I asked, so this is what came up for this guy I was just talking about, Jack Grealish. He didn't make the England squad because he didn't play enough time. He should have been with them. He's a phenomenal player, but because he didn't have enough time playing throughout the year, they can't take him. Well, Southgate didn't take him because he just didn't have enough time on the pitch.
Yeah.
So now you don't get to play for your country. So just imagine you should be on the Canadian team going over and playing for gold, right? At the Olympics with everybody else. All the other hot shots are out there. But you got bumped to the AHL, so we didn't bother taking you.
Yeah, but I guess that also comes down to like what your goals are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Shouldn't your goal always be to play for Canada?
Well, yeah, no, 100%. No, 100%.
So if you're taking a pay bump and less playing time, but then that affects your ability to play for Canada, kind of shitty.
Yeah, when you put in that aspect, for sure.
I guess these are the choices that athletes nowadays have to make. I mean, sometimes it is just about making the money, and sometimes it's about playing. But I guess it's a lot of the time that depends on where they are in their career. If they're at the end of their career and they've already made their money, then playing for their country is probably one of the last things that they want to lose out on. Versus you're at the beginning and you're like, hey, I could make $8 million or I could make $12 million, like I said before. So I don't know. Different times for different players depending on where they're at, like I said.
I think you're right with that, especially like relating back to like the NHL. People getting these crazy contracts right off, like they get their rookie contract. Next one after that is just huge money. So it's like, you're as good as this other player. If not better, you're producing and you're at your peak. Take the money.
So what do you think do you think someone's contract is worth how well they perform?
Yeah.
So
and what they bring.
Let me ask you this. So this happens in basketball, baseball, hockey, whatever. Say you just signed, 2 years ago, you signed an 8-year deal and you start putting up fucking banging numbers. You go and say, hey, I think I'm producing way more than I'm worth. I think I'm worth more money than what I'm putting out. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, before you're putting up, say, 20 goals a year, and all of a sudden now you're doing 35, 40. I want to break my contract. I want more money, which happens. And they have that right to do that. Do you think it's fair that it should go the other way then? You sign a contract because you're scoring 30 goals, and all of a sudden the team goes...
I think contracts should be non-negotiable.
I agree.
You're locked in?
All the way through.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're the player or the...
Yeah, you sign a deal,
yeah.
Soak it. It's like, I don't know, let's say like I create this business and like, let's say I create Apple and I sell it to you for like $2 million, but then it turns into like obviously $1 billion company. You don't owe me anything. I made that deal, right?
Exactly.
But speaking in terms of like comparing to other players and contracts, so me and you are on the same team, right? You signed your contract a year ago and you're getting $10 million. And then all of a sudden I start producing, and a year and a half, 2 years after that, I'm doing better than you. I know as a player that I'm better than you, if not the same, and they're going to offer me a couple million less, would you not go, what the...
Oh, for that aspect?
Yeah, like that's what I mean in like the aspect, like you see players around you get these contracts, you know what you're worth. Doesn't that entice you to do that?
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, say you and I are playing and you're signing a contract this year and you scored 30 goals last year and I scored 30 goals last year. You sign a contract for, say, $10 million.
Yeah.
And a year later, I sign a contract for $10 million. A year after that, say I drop down to 20 goals, you go up to 40. Should you be able to go and ask for more money?
No.
And if so, can the team then say, "Hey, I'm gonna pay you less"?
Yeah.
Just to keep it even, because that is how it works. Unfortunately, a player will have, say, a 5-year contract and they'll get 2 years into it and they're performing really, really well. Well, I'm overperforming for how much I'm getting, so they go back in and they say, "Hey, this is what I want."
Yeah.
So, how many times have you ever heard it go the other way around, where someone's a boss, say like
John Tavares?
Yeah,
ship him out.
I was going to say Wade Redden. He got shipped down to the minors, but got to keep his $7 million a year or whatever it was.
It's even like, have you ever like looked? I don't know if it's the same situation, but like NHL players that are still currently getting paid.
Oh, for the contracts from years and years ago? Yeah. Smart.
Sign me up.
Well, it'd be like, so don't quote me on this because I'm getting
Pull
this.
it up, Allison.
Yeah, Allison, can you look this up? Someone told me that Ohtani's contract goes for like 20 years payment-wise or something. It's something really weird. So it's a $750 million deal, but part of it gets pushed off.
To save something, isn't it? Like to save interest.
It's to keep the cap down for the team, right? So if they're showing, so let's just give this as an example. Say I signed a $20 million deal, but the last $10 million of my contract go onto, like, after my 5 years is up, instead of having $10 million during that 5 years, I only get $5 million during that 5 years, and then I get $1 million a year after that. And then they've only got $1 million on their cap afterwards. So just imagine if you do that from team to team to team and just say, look, I want to get paid 2031, 2032, 2030. I mean, that's great for the team, and it's great for you so that you can't fuck up your finances to the point where you don't have any money anymore. From what I understand, there's players out there that are still getting paid and they haven't played in decades.
Yeah.
So that's smart.
Like
if you can do it.
Like obviously from like the team standpoint, but it could also go the other way. You know what I mean? So like let's say like you're both offering the same thing. That could be the difference between me going to one team or the other. Like putting it in the other aspect, it's like, okay, this is going to save you. We're going to need the same amount of money, but when it comes down to it, taxes, you're actually making more, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it looks like we're approaching that time. This isn't a Rogan podcast, so we can't go to 3 hours. So.
Yeah, protect the parks.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this. We're going to have to do this again, maybe, I don't know, in a week.
Yeah. I'll come down to Stratford. We'll go to Bentley's.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do it right from Bentley's. But like I said, I appreciate you coming on and doing this, and I'll have to do it again.
100%.
All right. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to everybody next time.